because of how conservative and religious the dynamics of being in a Latino household can be.
Would you say that was the positive moments?
We might tolerate you like in the social settings, but in the private, it's not accepted.
Have you found ways of honoring that and also culture?
And in one of the nights, there was like a festival, and there was these, I don't want to say gay men because they were pretty dressed as feminine.
Hello, welcome to Session and Secrets. And today you're in session with me and
Beverly Fuentes.
Yes. And today we are going to be talking about the experience of coming out in conservative families. And so tell me a little bit about yourself and your professional role.
Well, I'm a licensed marriage family therapist in San Diego, California. I have a private practice there and I work with commercial insurances. My main focus in working in therapy is with children and families. So I service neurodivergent children and families and supporting them as things are coming up for children and their emotional development.
Yes. And how about when it comes to your personal experience? Tell me a little bit about your personal experience in coming out with your family.
Coming out, let's see. Well, I think coming out was an experience in the early 2000s that I got to really fully get to understand and learn from when I was in college. Because when I was at home in high school, maybe I had some thoughts, feelings, urges, but never really explored or gave it space because of how conservative and religious the dynamics of being in a Latino household can be. And so it wasn't until I was in college that I started exploring a little bit of like who I am and what I like.
And then once you knew that, how long did you keep the secret? I guess. Therefore, session and secrets.
And that is so true because I remember my first tattoo. I tried to keep it a secret for like a year. Yeah. But I think with any family, as much as we like to keep secrets, like someone always knows, you know?
Yeah, yes.
So I want to say I was already in my second relationship with a female or a female energy in 2005. So it probably was around 2005, 2006.
So maybe around 5 years, 6 years?
Maybe about a year or two after I graduated, and I started coming out my third year in college. So it wasn't until my third year in college that I came out. So that was like around 2003, 2004.
To family members?
No, just to my friends.
Okay.
And to like just yeah.
What about your family?
With my family, see, I don't have a lot of connection where like let's say we see each other for dinners or anything. Right. So it's already been really separated. Mm-hmm. And I think if I recall correctly, like I was like driving from my therapy session and my mom called me and said something like, lo que tengas que decir, like, it's going to be okay. Just let me know. Like,
so whatever you want to say, just tell me it's going to be okay.
Yeah. Almost like hinting that they knew. And so I let them know and they were surprisingly really open.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then 30 minutes later after we hung out and then they called back, it was a totally different switch. It was a really brief like moment
of acceptance.
Really brief, girl. Like it was just like
And so since she sensed it, right? A little bit. What were your thoughts and feelings before sharing this with her?
You know, I think it was multi-layered. Not only was I dating a female, I was also dating African-American female. So I don't know about you and your family, but for us and my culture coming from certain Central American countries, there is colorism. And there is something about you're not only just dating the same sex, But then if you date someone who's a darker color,
Right.
darker skin than you are. So it was like a double, triple kind of whammy. Um, and like my family knew because at one point I moved in, my partner and I moved in with one of my cousins for a short time and we lived together. But it was like this way of, oh, you're here and we might tolerate you like in the social settings, but in the private, it's not accepted. So if we went into like birthday parties or some form of family gatherings, obviously we were like welcome. They were even asked to like help with the barbecue or something. Really kind of stereotypical stuff. But it wasn't like celebrated or like totally accepted and tolerant in the way that it would be like, oh, this is my daughter or my relative and their partner.
My daughter-in-law or my
Yeah.
son-in-law, the way we
No,
would say that.
this is like, this is my daughter and this is their friend kind of thing.
And so there were, would you say that was like the positive moments, the that they were somewhat open to sharing your experience with and your relationship with partner?
Um,
Or would you say there was parts of it seemed like positive and at the same time it was a negative?
I think it's really complicated to even like try to kind of separate it like that because even now in the present, like for example, my mom lives in Arkansas and my spouse and I went to spend 2 months with her because part of my spouse immigrating to the U.S., we needed somewhere to stay. And so we said, hey, can we go stay with you? And my mom said, sure, mijas, you guys can come stay with me. And everything seemed like it was going to be really nice, rainbows and butterflies. But the moment we got there, you could see it just like in the way that she would look at my spouse and some of the comments that she would make, just how it wasn't really accepted or tolerated. So there's a lot of lip service.
Like the nonverbal messages, is it?
Both.
Both?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Latina mothers, they will give you both the nonverbal
look.
and the verbal messages, you know. I think,
How was that for you?
I think it was challenging because I know how my mom is. I know where I come from, so it's not like I want to like, cover the sun with one little finger or something. But I think it was challenging in the sense where she's a person that tells you that she's going to support you and help you. And she does that amazingly with like people she doesn't know. And then she tells you she's going to do it, right? But then she doesn't really follow through when it's someone that's close to her. And that's probably her own trauma and her own stuff. So it was a little disheartening, and more so because I didn't know really how to show up for my partner in that way. Like, how do you show up for someone where it's like, maybe it's just the side look, or maybe it's just this comment, or maybe it's just a change in someone's face when you walk into the room. Like, how do you like say, hey, that's not okay? How do you call someone out 24/7 on something that they're doing?
Right.
So I think it was kind of challenging and not being able to support maybe how they might have needed that support based on how my mom was responding to them.
What about you? How did you show up with yourself in those moments?
I think I love our capacity to go into survival mode when we need to. I think I've embraced the idea that there's a reason why our systems have that capacity to go into that survival mode. And I can tell you, just because I'm a therapist and I'm aware of where I'm at in relation to my life and my journey, that I was in survival mode. Yeah.
And so how do you, even when you're in survival mode, how did you practice, caring for yourself?
Oh, that was really challenging. I don't know if you know much about Arkansas's weather, but they really feel like pretty much all the seasons. And we were there during some snow. We were there during some like tornado warnings. So it was really challenging to just get out, because I'm a person that I'm like, if I don't feel comfortable somewhere, the last thing I want to do is like curl and hide. I want to get up and get moving. So what was beautiful about Arkansas is that it has a lot of the natural state, so it has a lot of natural places to walk. And I would grab my dog and I would like put on like 3 different layers of clothing, and I was like, okay, let's go walking. And just walking for me does a lot. Just allowing my body to move, just being aware of what our nervous system and our sensory system need to support that emotional brain and that brainstem. So yeah,
Doing
movement.
that
Yeah,
movement.
lots of movement, lots of walks.
Okay. And how has your Latinx identity shaped the way you view your queerness and vice versa?
You know, I'm really conflicted in regards to my Latinidad, Latinx, Hispanidad. I think at this time in my journey, I'm embracing more of my indigenidad. Um, so I think when I started in college, even as an undergrad, I did not identify myself as LGBTQ. I identified myself as Two-Spirit. It made more sense and it rang more true to me. So even when people would be like, and back in the early 2000s, there wasn't an umbrella of
Right.
labels. It was like LGBTQ. And then later on, they added the 2Q. And now it's just a different umbrella of things. But even then, like lesbian, gay, bisexual didn't sit well with me, didn't really felt like it identified me. So I always kind of embraced Two-Spirit. And that came from just taking a class of indigenous social learning and just understanding what the Two-Spirit culture was. And when I read about it, I was like, wow, that sounds like me.
So what is that?
I don't want to like misspeak for
Well,
Native
your
Indigenous
understanding of it,
peoples.
or how it speaks
Yeah.
to you personally. To you.
Yeah, personally to me, Two-Spirited is meaning all embracing, that it's encompassing of not just identifying with the feminine energy, it's also identifying and embracing both energies, the masculine and the feminine. And I see that not just in my awareness of how I show up, but also in how I connect with other people.
And so, how do you think that's, or have you found ways of honoring that and also the culture?
Um, and this is another thing why I think it goes back to more of the indigenidad, because I'm like, if I really start looking into some of my roots, I think maybe there was a space in my culture where this was embraced. And I'll tell you why. When I was 14 years old, I got my green card. And my mom had this rule that I was going to go to Guatemala because I really wanted to go back to my country of origin. And that if I was going to go back to my country of origin, I was going to visit my biological father. And so they took me to where my paternal family lives, and it's a really small village. Back then, in 1990 something, it took a bus ride to like a port, and then we had to take like a small boat into the bay, and then from the bay we had to take a bus ride that only left at 5 o'clock in the morning or at 3 p.m. because once sunset came,
You
like
can't.
yeah. So it was like a whole like 1 day travel overnight to get there. And when I got there, it's a small village that really like not a lot of people go to. And in one of the nights, there was like a festival, and there was these, I don't want to say gay men because they were pretty dressed as feminine, and they were female presenting. And it was just like 3 of them, and they all had like their little like bakery, not they're like had their little garnacha stand, like they were selling just like whatever food. And I was like, where did they come from? Because for me, LGBT was something like foreign in the sense of like it was something Americanized. It was something that it was like
Like not part of our
not part of us.
culture.
Yeah. And I was like, how did they kind of create this? So that always kind of like spiked my interest. And then, so I realized that there was something that may be outside of what it means to be Latino, that identify more with being two-spirited, which is more of an indigenous aspect.
Yeah. And what traditions or values have you redefined for yourself when it comes to cultural values or spiritual values that have shaped you or redefined you, or that you have redefined?
Mhm. I think this is still part of like that journey that I'm on, is like trying to figure out what my connection is with
All of
this world and how I show up. But best believe when I am under stress, I am like, Dios mío, like help me. And then my mom's
God
voice
help.
comes out and I start praying. Because I was raised in an evangelical conservative household where there was no makeup, there was no pants, no earrings, so no Halloween. When my brother was like, I think in like third or fourth grade, he decided to like dress up from Halloween because his friends kind of gave him little random things. And my mom chased him down the street. She was going to beat the crap out of him because we don't do the devil stuff, so you get a
Right.
beating out of it. I think I came from a place where a lot of things that I was taught up until the age of 15, 16 was pretty much from the Bible. Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't really question it or challenged it. I think it wasn't until I started kind of taking biology in high school and started looking at what college was, and then having more of that independence from my parents allowed me that opportunity to explore who I was.
And what has helped you heal from all this journey? Like,
I mean, I was supposed to be an attorney. I don't know how the F I ended up being a therapist, but they say you kind of you follow the path of your healing. So I don't know. Lots of therapy. So I started my therapy journey when I was an undergrad in college because my brother was murdered. And then I did every kind of therapy that they offered. Like my school advisor was like, you can't take 20 units. Like you need to go see a therapist. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Like I should be able to take 20 units if I want to.
right.
And so I did individual therapy. I did group therapy. I did EMDR. And then I started working with children. So I think that kind of brought in a little bit of that support and the education. I think unknowingly, I was looking for answers, and going into master's and marriage family therapy kind of allowed me that support that maybe I needed in my own personal journey.
And what advice would you give to someone who is struggling with coming out or keeping it, to themselves when they're trying, maybe where they're considering coming out in a conservative family? What would be your advice to them?
Oh, I've had a couple of clients who've kind of have been in that journey, and being able to have a support system that understands you and that is willing to go at your pace, because coming out is something that you can't necessarily plan for. It's something that happens, and in order for you to feel comfortable and secure enough to do it, that's something that I would encourage, is like try and find that support system that does accept you
First, as a first step. Yeah. And what are some common emotional struggles that you see clients come to you when they're going through that process, that journey?
I think we all want to be accepted.
Yes.
Yeah.
We all want to feel loved, right?
Yeah, and that's the hardest thing when you say, how can your family of origin not accept you? And it's challenging when you have to set limits that are not, I don't even like the word limits, because when you think about limits and the word, and for people of color, it doesn't really translate well, because it's not like we can just kind of cut someone off.
Right.
That's not how it works for us.
Yes.
But being more so about understanding on how to move those parameters and how to take care of yourself. That self-care is something that I do explore with my clients. If they are going to be in contact with their family of origin, if they are going to choose to connect, let's say for Mother's Day or for Christmas or X holiday, that they have a plan of self-care. How are you going to take care of yourself after that? And we even talk about how much our system can handle. How long do we want to be in that environment for? Do we want to be there from the beginning? Do we want to get there later and leave early? We really explore the dynamics about how can we make this connection be as viable and as tolerable and enjoyable as possible without having to overwhelm or drain you. So I plan more about like, hey, do we want to get there 30 minutes after? Do we want to leave 30 minutes early? Do we want to take that support system with us?
Yeah.
And then how do we take care of ourselves afterwards?
Right. Exactly. And the wanting to belong and feel accepted and connected, that's like throughout our life, right? We it's something we're always pursuing or that we need. We need that connection, right? And so, when you were saying at the beginning that you felt that rejection from mom, and at the beginning, if it seemed like it was going to be connection, that you were going to acceptance and love. So how do you deal with that back and forth, right? Like it's like a roller coaster.
Yes, it is a roller coaster. And I think, as much as I would love to have a relationship with my mom and have that connection and be able to go to them when I need them, I don't have that. So I'm aware of it and giving that space to it first. Understanding that if I go into that survival mode, it's because that's where I need to be and the capacity to be secure enough. And then we create that distance. So I'm back in California for a reason.
Welcome back.
Thank you. And then my mentors. I think I've learned to really expand on that network of mentors.
Okay. And obviously it's a touching experience, right? It's
so fresh.
Yes.
I didn't realize it was going to go there.
Well, thank you for sharing. And, it's, it's an honor to have you and for you to be open and share your story, because I'm sure there's lots of people out there, right? Like wanting to hear more and knowing that they're not alone, right? And that there is a community for them, right? And so is there, and so sometimes as therapists, we may not, we're not all the same. And so what's something that someone who's coming out from to a conservative family, what kind of experience should they have when it comes to therapy?
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes we can do more damage than help, right?
Yeah. I think that's a very important thing about whose agenda is it?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the client's agenda? I come from a perspective as a therapist. I'm a brain spotting practitioner, so I work from a somatic processing, from a bottom-up approach.
So somatic meaning the body.
Yeah,
right?
meaning in the body. There's connections, there's sensations, there's physical manifestations in the body that need attending to, right? Like my tears flowing right now, I kind of acknowledge them. I give them some space and time, and maybe there's something I need to explore. So when working with clients that are coming in that like that, and as a therapist, is really important in asking yourself, whose agenda is it? Because you as a therapist might have an idea about what that individual needs to flourish, but you are not their environment. And sometimes we cannot just cut off our environment or our connection to our family. Some of us still live with them. And so understanding about how to show up for that individual and where they are at. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm there to witness, not to solve, not to...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to tell them what to do, right?
Yeah, I'm there to witness you.
Yes, and your healing journey. Well, is there anything else that you would want to share with with our audience?
I really thought when you said like, oh, let's talk about your coming out story, I'm just gonna talk about my undergraduate years. And I was like, oh shit, this still happening now.
Hey.
I was like, wait a minute. It's still here. Yes. That's it.
Yeah, it's because it's an ongoing process. And I want to thank you very much. And you know that you have my heart, and I'm giving you a hug.
Thank you.
Thank you.